Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high, cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold up, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up. Weekdays, catch us live, somebody, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back. Random as hell, but we got some breaking news. Welcome back to the Pascal Show. We don't really do this very often, these breaking stories very often as much anymore, but this happened. I was in the middle of eating lunch, and David sent me this huge news about Bill Cosby's charges have been dropped. Real talk. Charges have officially been dropped, y'all. And I got to be honest, I am just as surprised as anybody else. This is huge. It's a huge story. A lot of us are still wondering what the heck is going on, and still trying to understand all of this, because at the same time, this is all just huge breaking news. But as we said, Bill Cosby's SA conviction has been overturned by the court in Pennsylvania. And like I said, Pennsylvania's highest court overturned Bill Cosby's SA conviction today, after finding an agreement with a previous prosecutor prevented him from being charged in the state. Okay, now just so you know, and David has a little bit more of a deep dive into this, but just so you know, Cosby has been serving more than 2 years of his 3 to 10 year sentence at a state prison near Philadelphia. He had vowed to serve all 10 years rather than acknowledge any remorse over the 2004 encounter with accuser Andrea Constant. Just letting you guys know, now those charges have officially been dropped, and he could be released from prison as soon as less than 24 hours from now, y'all. Less than 24 hours from now. This is a huge, groundbreaking story. Man, David's got more of this. I'm gonna hand it over to David real quick, so he can explain a little bit of what the heck is going on and why this is happening right now. You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't never seen anything like this in my life. Real talk. You get thrown in jail. You think you're going to be spending all that time. You think you're done. You've been found guilty, right? And then the charges get overthrown. But why? Now we want to know what really, really happened here. But before we throw it over to David, where he has a little bit more of a deep dive to this story, please hit that like button, hit those likes all the way up, send those likes all the way up. This is incredible news, real talk, incredible news. This is history in the making right here, right? Real talk. It's something that I don't think we would have witnessed in our lifetime. But David, what's a guan here, man? What's really happening? Why is it being overturned right now?
All right. So basically in 2015, when the prosecutor brought in new evidence that was damaging disposition from a lawsuit, was used in the trial to prove that Cosby, via testimony, had performed some of these acts. However, the trial judge had allowed just one other accuser to testify at the first trial when the jury was deadlocked. And after that, they allowed 5 additional accusers to come in, which had not been planned or agreed to beforehand. So ultimately, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said that testimony from those 5 people had tainted the trial, even though a lower appeals court had found it appropriate to show a signature of pattern drugging and molesting women. However, the Supreme Court, as it is with the federal government, is above the lower courts. So their court finding is much more significant than what the lower appeals court first said. So Cosby, as you know, was charged with this in 2015. And so right now, there is a few issues that they're looking at, because he was initially arrested right before the 12-year statute of limitations ended. And so right now they are looking at the possibility of charging him once again, if they can do so. It's not decided entirely yet. And also there is a possibility that they will appeal it to the Supreme Court, which can only be heard by the Supreme Court. So that will ultimately be up to them as well.
So in other words, so real quick, I'm sorry. So in other words, yes, he's vindicated right now. He has been emancipated. The chains will be released from his body here within the next 24 hours. But he could also, depending on what happens with the Supreme Court, he could be thrown back in jail if they find it fit for him to be thrown back in jail. So if he's found guilty by the Supreme Court, he'll be thrown back in jail again. Correct?
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to hear an appeal. So the thing the prosecutor can really do is just try to do the trial all over again. So we'd be back to square one in that. That's what I think is more likely. I don't really think we will see any other situation come out of this. I do. Well, the justices who were part of the Supreme Court did voice concern that this wasn't just about sexual assault cases, but they saw this as a series increasing tendency to allow testimony on in cases, including to show a crime pattern so specific that it serves to identify the perpetrator.
Can you repeat that last part? I'm sorry, I was getting T back on, and if you can fix your settings really quick. And what's up, T? How you doing, my brother? As we are looking at this, is some big news, but if you could tell us that last part one last time, David, because you kind of cut out a little bit. There was some weird technical issue here going on, if you don't mind.
All right. Yeah, so the justices from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court had stated that they were concerned not just about sex assault cases, but what they saw as a new increasing tendency to allow testimony that crosses the line into character attacks, because character attacks are not allowed. The law allows the testimony only in limited cases, including to show a crime pattern so specific it serves to identify the perpetrator. However, the Supreme Court was pretty close to unanimous on this one. I do not think they will pass the appeal, like I said. Most likely, if anything happens after this, what we will see is the prosecutor started a whole new trial and we'll be back to square one. But there is one other possibility that kind of got forgotten about 3 years ago, because Cosby was also facing charges in California. However, the statute of limitations had passed, so he couldn't be charged for them. And immediately after that, California legislation passed a law extending the statute of limitations. However, by the time that happened, it was the end of 2018, and Cosby was already in jail, so they didn't actually charge him with anything. However, it is still possible that California will charge him now that he is not in prison and he's free to go face the trial in that area as well. So he still has this federal trial that may be retried, and he also has this California trial which might go forward that has just been kind of in limbo ever since that law passed. Though some legislators were arguing he should not be charged because they changed the statute of limitations after they already expired for him. So we'll have to see what comes from that.
Man, this is wild stuff. This is a wild story, y'all. T, what are your thoughts on this situation? Can you hear us, T? T? T?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. What are your thoughts on this, man?
Okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, this happening in my home state, so it's definitely going to be a mixed bag of emotions here. Cosby, being from this area, has a huge following.
Huge.
Has always been very vocal about the community here, and nationwide. And he's always been his university, which he is a big sponsor of. He's always been a face of the university here, Temple University. And growing up with Cosby was everything. Cosby was the face of the black family growing up. So the Cosby Show with the really great spinoff of A Different World. Cosby was a god here. For all the things that happened to him in the last 10 years or so, especially the last 5 years, it's been really traumatic and a lot of mixed emotions here. But I am happy that he's free. At 83 years old, I didn't want to see him die in prison. It's
but
a great legacy.
But if you hold on though, because you got to remember, if somebody is, let's just say if the dude was guilty of all those charges, even if he was 80 something years old, he should be spending his time in jail regardless. He's being vindicated right now, and of course, you know, like there's some people saying like Taz D, what's up? Thank you so much for the comment. They are saying the false accusers need to be checked. Absolutely, they most definitely need to be checked. They most definitely need to be They definitely need to be brought in to. I feel like they should be getting charged themselves if they are lying, of course. But at the same time, I mean, if he was wrongfully or rightfully accused. I mean, if he was accused and he was really guilty for doing those things, regardless of his age, he should go and spend time. Doesn't matter if he's America's dad or if he is not. If he's just some dad around the corner, you know, you do the crime, you pay the time, or you serve the time. But with this whole situation where stories are flip-flopping, stories are changing, you know, they try to go after his character rather than what he, you know, rather than the actual case and going off of the evidence, which, of course, when we look at the evidence, there isn't that much evidence going on in the first place. The fact that he was getting thrown into jail for 3 to 10 years off of basically baseless evidence is wrong. Now, if he was going to be found guilty and they had nothing but a whole bunch of evidence and testimonies that were going against Bill Cosby, then I feel like, yeah, absolutely, lock him up and throw away the key. But they were literally using this as they were basically calling him everything except a child of God, like I always say. You know what I'm saying? And trying to destroy who he is as a person, or they try to use who he is as a person to solidify their case, which is absolute trash.
Mm-hmm. I just felt like you pretty much summed it up. I felt like the jury was tainted with all the records of women over the years saying that he allegedly did these things to them. That was in the 70s and 80s and 60s. Like, these are things that happened years and years ago. And it's really hard to prove that it actually happened. You know, I mean, a lot of celebrity men, they treat women pretty low grade. So maybe he wasn't the greatest, you know, lover in the world. Maybe he was rough. Maybe he was misogynistic. Maybe he was whatever. But if he did not rape you, if he did not drug you, then you can't slander his image or his name just to get back at him. So I just felt like, you know, you have to really have evidence that you can prove, and it can be brought to court and have a fair trial. That's my stance.
Absolutely. You know, and also, you know, Delissa said something. Delissa Richardson on Facebook. Thank you so much for the comments on Facebook. So much, Delissa. She said 2 different comments. She said, so this was misconduct by the prosecutor. Absolutely. Then she said a second thing, there should be an independent investigation done on the prosecutor's office. Abso-freaking-lutely. If you're going to be that corrupt, if the lawyers are going to be that corrupt during a trial this heavy on a man where you are basically destroying who he is as an icon, as America's sweetheart in a way, if you are going to destroy this man's character by doing dirty, by doing acts of misconduct, and trying to defame his character, and all of a sudden they finally see that there was misconduct, abso-freaking-lutely you should be, that prosecutor's office should be investigated thoroughly. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Cosby starts throwing out lawsuits towards that law firm. I wouldn't be surprised, because he spent time in prison on the base of nothing. What are you gonna say, David?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you pretty much on all that. For the last thing you said, though, So he already served 2 years. So if he does get retried in New York, at least that will count again. So one thing that one of the lawyers were complaining about the prosecutor, and this is one of the appeal lawyers. She said, and her name is Jennifer Bonjean. She said that prosecutors put on vague evidence about uncharged conduct, including his own memories, statements about having alcohol or quaaludes before the encounters. And so he wasn't actually charged for those, but they still had those as evidence, which, according to this appellate lawyer, Jennifer Bonjean, that's not acceptable. And she also goes on to state that the presumption of innocence just didn't exist for him. And so, I mean, that is partially true. As far as I see this, the one source, the testimony that came beforehand, should still basically be seen as legitimate because it was already planned. It's the 5 that came afterward, which is very problematic. And seeing that, I do agree that that this shouldn't be held up as it is, because they brought in 5 people that were not part of the initial witness and evidence board. Presumably, they did not get vetted properly by both sides. Because obviously some of the lawyers didn't know or think it was fair and didn't know it was going to happen. So those 5 sources, pretty sure those had a major effect on his sentencing, but we haven't vetted those sources enough to hold them up in the court of law. And some of the evidence that was put up in the court of law was not tied to any actual crime. It just kind of made him look bad, like alcohol and quaaludes, I guess, makes you look bad, but it wasn't illegal, or at least he wasn't charged for it. It would have been a misdemeanor for the drugs at most.
Right.
But you know, all of that did add to the jury making this decision, because the jury doesn't know all the laws, what they should consider or not. They only know what the judge tells them to consider and what the lawyers tell them to consider. So like, the jurors weren't at fault for considering these additional 5 sources. The judge was at fault for allowing it, and the lawyer was at fault for pushing it through.
Yep. And that's the thing. Because, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of it is hearsay. You know, I just read some of the comments over here, and it's true. I mean, and it's still true to this day that, you know, even back then there was a lot of it was drug and alcohol induced times. You know what I'm saying? Free love and all that stuff, and, you know, copious amounts of cocaine and all this other crazy stuff that was going on back then. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, though, that doesn't, I mean, just from a hearsay or just from a, you know, when you don't have physical evidence, it's hard to keep somebody in that realm of guilty if you don't have everything when you go into court, right? Now, let's be real. There's a good possibility that these things did happen, that he did these terrible things. But when you have key witnesses that are flip-flopping, doing all this crazy stuff, they go in, they say one story, they come in back in another day, they say something completely different, that throws up suspicious, that brings suspicion into the whole trial to begin with. Then on top of that, when you have the prosecutors who are just trying to take this man down, a very highly successful black man, let's be real, a man with a lot of power. He expressed and exercised his power at certain times in his life, I'm sure. So I'm sure people were feeling some type of way that prosecutor's office was trying to do everything they could to take this man down. But the thing is, at the end of it all, right now, let's be straight funky, y'all. The damage is already done. The damage is done. He already has on his head. Doesn't matter if he's fully vindicated right now or not, which, you know, for some people are scowling, upset right now, looking, absolutely dragging their feet today after they hear this news. And some people are out here literally giving it a thumbs up and feeling like, hey, he has been emancipated. He has finally had his vindication. But here's the thing, though. Here's the sad part of it all. He will always have this hanging over his head. Doesn't matter. The damage is already done. There will always be that thing till he leaves this planet. Everyone will look at his career, and then it'll be this at the very end of it. So no matter what, And I'm going to say it again. The damage is already done. Even if he goes and sues that prosecutor's office, that office gets investigated, etc. And they show that those guys did nothing but terrible things under the table, etc. They pulled everything out of their asses to try to take this man down. Does not matter. There are still stories, headlines, news, media, etc. all over the place that have tarnished this man's name. So the damage is already done. And that's what sucks. I still watch. Debbie just said, I still watch the Cosby Show. I still watch the Cosby Show, but now, like I said, doesn't matter. Now when you watch that show, you have this in the back of your head, and that's what's sad. Whether you are with it or against it, there's still that piece in the back of your head going, damn, you remember that time when he did that thing, allegedly? So we'll see what happens as things go, as things progress. From my understanding, from what David has given to us, this might be something that is going to be brought up to the Supreme Court. So his battle has just begun. It ain't even over. He may be free in the next 24 hours, but he still has to fight for his life and fight for his freedom in the upcoming months. All right? Anyway, guys, that's the show. I really do appreciate you guys. I know this was a very impromptu, but I had to pop up and throw this to you guys because this was huge. This was a huge story. And yeah, I don't like it. The fact that this was a very powerful black man. And, you know, in a way, they're trying to find a way to take this black man down. And that's unfair. But that's why every man, every woman, we need to watch how we hold and conduct ourselves around people in general, because you never know when that bomb drops. It could be 50 years from now. You gotta be safe. Keep your head on a swivel, period. Do the right thing. If you're going to do recreational drugs, I don't condone it. But if you are, do it with a friend. Don't try to do anything sexually. You should be okay. Real talk. Anyway, big thank you to David and T for being on today. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, man, no problem.
You know what I'm saying? Nice little impromptu pop-up live, but we had to talk about that one. Real talk. We had to, y'all. This one's some serious stuff. But like I said, big story. Bill Cosby will be free the next 24 hours because the law messed up. Ain't that crazy? You know what? Honestly, he would be the first black man that I would ever think of to be able to get away with this. Real talk, if you really think about it. Right? Real talk. I'm not surprised. You know? So, like I said, you know, even myself, I'll say this too. I am skeptical. I'll be honest. You have that many women that come out and say that certain things, those accusations, right? A part of you can't sit there and go, nah, you're telling me all them girls are lying? I don't know. So like I said, let's take it to the Supreme Court. Let's see what they say up all the way up there. And hopefully he'll be tried properly and justly. Anyway, it's time to get going, guys. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And be sure to go and check out the other pop-up videos and all that stuff. Hit that like button down below. Get those likes all the way up. Don't forget to subscribe, y'all. And go over to my secondary channel, The Pascal Show Clips. That would be greatly appreciated. Hit that subscribe button over there. I gotta go, but I love y'all. And I appreciate having this conversation with all y'all, okay? Bill Cosby's about to be emancipated. Crazy. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is The Pascal Show. Bye.